Hi everyone. So I like to just launch into the poems. I could give you a lot of detail and stuff, and maybe I'll give you a tiny bit, but for the most part, I'm just going to read to you. So the first one is called Close Meets Far Away. So each day, walking to the market from my room, giants watch me slowly ramble by with no judgments, just my head and sky. And with me is just an afterthought. So it's amazing how good it feels seeing the mountains after the storm covered in snow. And it's even more amazing considering how miserable it would be to be there freezing. Venus, too, is beautiful from a distance. I turn the corner as I head down to the market, and I face the I-90 from a slight elevation across the freeway. The angel Moroni atop the Mormon temple with his golden horn proclaims the gospel according to the golden plates that a man named Smith discovered in New York, a place I love to visit but would never want to live in again. From this distance, the I-90 feels hopeful, a way to escape the confines of my room and start fresh. East to the Cascades, west to the Olympics, and nowhere in between. On a clear New York fall morning, my father held my hand, and we rode the subway to downtown where he worked. I spent the day watching him breathing the musk of books and boxes in an old office with a big window that looked out from the 23rd floor at the lines of buildings moving in parallax against the blue sky and long shadows clipping the streets. Where all those things I've read about in poems, novels, and memoirs happened, the tiny people down there fit neatly into the crosswalks, bus stops, and storefronts. A busy diorama destined for the attic to be revisited when there's no more room for memories in the living room. My breath fogged the window and I wiped it to keep watching the coursing crowd. I couldn't see their faces well enough to know what they might be feeling, and my father painted a smile or a frown here and there whenever I asked a difficult question. And I kept and I listened to his response, and I questioned, and I listened, and I questioned, and I listened and questioned. And 58 years later, he was still explaining as I held his hand to help him cross the street. The sun is beautiful when it's clear, and the moon reflects the sun. We weren't made to be there, only to appreciate it from a distance. I need to hold this a little closer so I can see what I'm doing. The next one is just affirmation, something I picked up, something that just evolved from my love of the North Coast of California and Oregon and Washington and so forth. Breathe me, ancient corridor of redwood beach, long and untiring. I'm your song, a melody beyond fear, whose verse and refrain entwine with the wind and blithely cast lies to the ocean from the pools at the monolith's feet where the starfish cling. And from the coarse, moist sand to the gulls above the hillside, flecked with flowers, their conversation with the waves say plainly what is scribed onto the sandstone cliffs to an audience of crows perched on the branches of the moss-laden spruce, awaiting the next act of nature while the grass quivers behind me. Behind me are the meandering footprints that the tide will eventually claim. I am here, head flung back, slowly spinning the sky to see which move I make next in a game where the whales breach and the conch shell whispers the uncountable rules. The blackberry brambles on the banks lure me into the ripest of the bunch, No thorn is sharp enough to stop my reaching. No sour taste spoils my love of the sugary blood. And I'm more annoying to the flies than they are to me. As I forage, I'm waved back to reckon with the trough from such sweetness, forced to reconcile the bear with my drunken face, blaming the universe for my brutal nature. Slowly a sense of that reckoning and a blood seeping from a forgotten wound dispassionately watches rage dance about in some confused agony. Its distorted image from just below the watery surface silently mouths Shakespeare's quality of mercy under the background light of our galaxy, while in the cluster of Pleiades, Merope hides her shame of marrying a mortal. Once past the point of no return, beneath the shade of the giant hogweed, I blister and burn foolishly, hold my head in my hands, unable to wrap my mind around those things that my opposable thumb can grasp. A wave crashes and rushes up to me, washing my feet, slowly shushing and leaving the tiny sand crabs to scurry back home. There is shadow because there is light, and the stone of misery is worn away by the current of compassion. So at midday and midnight, in the razor glare or below the heavy gray, with drizzle or wind or smoke or snow, I stand guard, wearily but steadfast, a grounding wire to send the spark back to safety. Here in the ultra-deep field, if you feel alone, you are mistaken. If you're not alone, I wore the wrong glasses. I wore my distance glass, and that's why I'm laughing. So to start briefly over here, if you feel alone, you're mistaken. If you're mistaken, you're not alone. If you're cold, gather around our star and warm yourself on a spit of sand by the mouth of the river where the naked planet sits in the light of that star. Its salty contours surfing the gravity waves while its precious moon engages the tides, unencumbered by buildings and streets and gargoyles. Looking outward, the sky swoops down to touch the sea. In its meeting, it brings to order the unordered sense of being that starts and ends on a butterfly's wings, coated by the singularity expressed on the dark brow of a cloud, brilliant and subtle, whose purpose is to wonder and wander and fold into the sandy blanket against her precious skin. Three bodies, of which I'm one, hold each other's hands and dance around the children who, without thinking, crash into the chaotic circle of the starlight and sit on the ground looking at us, startled and bewildered, beginning to cry. We sweep them up and wait for them to know the silence of the now and here and later and thereafter. We tell them, we have given birth to you who have named us. Then below the big brilliant castles of clouds and meandering vaporous veil, I draw my breath and empty it into another crashing wave, entering the ocean, undulating, rolling side to side, still for a moment, then surging, slapping, pushing, pulling, tumbling, dropping, gasping, touching ground, slowly emerging, walking, sitting, sniffing, looking, listening. I'm glad I can even read this. I was like, what is wrong with my vision? Well, I kind of knew what's wrong. The next one's called Inhabiting Myself. This one is kind of sparked by all the warfare and stuff, the horrible shit we're reading about these days. Okay, before I could take cover, sudden awareness exploded over my oatmeal and coffee, collapsing the walls that shaped my home, and now rest on me each concrete chunk forcing me to dig my way through the thick, dusty debris, pushing and pulling and squeezing to fit through the precarious crevices that crumble further with each move I make. I will die, searching for the next breathable moment, looking behind each fallen facade for something to use to keep me sheltered. But here I find those things that I cannot fix or reconcile. My body is torn and I've lost a shoe while freeing myself, and I can't seem to tell where I am as I limp around through these pieces. Though these pieces are all there, compressed into the moment, there is no memory, only dead reckoning and deja vu. Here I am. Yes, here I am. And the lie slithered away into the dust. And last one. So this last one, very briefly, was formed by a friend of mine. Sent a video, and it just had him looking down. All you could see is his feet marching in gravel. He was bummed out about some heavy duty stuff. His wife was sick and all that. And to hear it, really, I was going to bring a drum just to sort of hear how it's the beat. Rage marches with a steady gait to battle, crunching earth beneath its boots, not feeling the blisters or sensing blood. If the ground were to disappear, it would violently insist it was there, falling as it confused up with down, the enemy for its own, beating its chest to scare away reason, avoiding the poison of butterflies and trees. It keeps to the gravelly road under the gunmetal sky.